How's it going, guys? This is Jack here with the Commander's Wire, and welcome back to another video. Today we're really going to be talking about nothing. There is a ton of stuff going around from a ton of different sources. Every different source has a different idea. They're hearing a bunch of different whispers of different things, and at this point, none of it matters. At this point, none of it matters. There's going to be one guy tomorrow at midnight who's going to be like looking back at the draft after the first round ends and said, yeah, I'm right. And then the rest of them are going to be like, oh, maybe I was wrong. And so because of that, we really have no clue what's going to happen. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of this video, I really would appreciate if you guys would go down below, drop a like, subscribe, turn on post notifications to know when I post next, and then you guys will be notified whenever I drop more Commanders content just like this. So without further ado, let's get right into today's video. And like I said before, this video is just going to be a final remark before we have the draft tomorrow, starting at 8 p.m. I believe, Thursday, April 23rd. I'm going to be going live, hopefully about 7:30. Maybe we'll do a couple mock drafts before the clock starts at 8 p.m. And we're just going to be hanging out, going through the entire draft process, the entire first round. I'll be live again Friday night for the second round, as well as all of Saturday afternoon for the for day 3. So I'm super excited about this entire process. I'm super excited to see how the Commanders are going to go through this 2026 NFL draft and see who they draft. But going back into the conversation of all the sources and insiders and analysts, like all of them know something, yet they know nothing, right? They're all getting whispers from each other. They're all maybe getting whispers from general managers or assistant general managers or head coaches, and they're just feeding all of these different things from different sources. Especially with the Washington Commanders specifically, we're getting different bits and pieces about different players. We're getting the Commanders are in love with Ruben Bain somehow. I wouldn't be surprised. I know Ruben Bain's probably Dan Quinn's guy. If Dan Quinn was still like the defensive coordinator of his defense, I think Ruben Bain would have been his guy. But that's besides the point. We know that Sonny Styles is also his guy. We know that Carnell Tate is also apparently their guy when it comes to the offensive side of the ball. We know that Mekhi Lemon is probably a close second when it comes to a receiver. We know that Jeremiah Love and Caleb Downs, they are the guys that have those Commanders tags and also fill a spot on the roster that is a potential need for the Washington Commanders. I think running back isn't as big of a need as, say other positions, but that's a whole different conversation. So at the end of the day, no one knows what's going to happen tomorrow. Some teams are even being rumored to go after players that they don't even need, right? So it's like no one knows what's going to happen. It's all going to be speculative until tomorrow at 8 p.m., right? Everyone thinks they have it figured out. Everyone thinks that Jeremiah Love is going to be the pick there no matter what. Some people think that Sonny Styles is going to be the pick there no matter what. Some people think that the wide receiver is going to be a pick there no matter what. And some people think that they're going to trade back no matter what. It really is not going to matter until 8 p.m. tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. And just to see how the board falls, for one, it all is relative based on how the board falls. I know the Commanders probably have a guy that they're just going to say, if this guy is there at pick 7, we cannot move back. We have to stick and pick that guy. And I know they may have a couple of them. With being there in the top 10, there may be 1, 2, maybe 3 of those guys that Adam Peters and Dan Quinn have agreed upon that if that guy is there, they will not take any trade requests. They will stick and pick that guy. And I would not be surprised if that is the result. But there's a world where maybe none of those guys are there. And the Commanders may have to go to a plan B type of player, or they will hear out trade calls. And potentially they'll move back and choose a different guy that's on their board. I think that this draft is a little weird in terms of positional value. We've all heard this conversation. A lot of the top players aren't really guys that have high positional value. That is kind of a conclusion that we've all drawn upon. Also, however, this draft class is very deep at certain positions. There are some guys, even on day 3, that could potentially be day 1 starters for the Washington Commanders, especially in the cornerback room, maybe the safety room. I think on the offensive line, there's a lot of solid prospects there in the later part of day 3, which is why I'm pretty excited, because I actually know a lot of these guys. Not saying I know them personally. I'm saying like I've done a little bit of research on them, and then that means I'm a little more kind of locked in and connected with on day 3 when players are taken off the board. I still have some familiarity with some of those guys, which is probably going to help me with live streaming. Of course, I'll be able to stay locked in with that stuff. But at the same time, the Commanders, even if they say they trade back to 15 or maybe within the top 20, but after 15, right? Between 15 and 20, a lot of those guys that are maybe a top 15 pick or maybe a top 20 pick, they're on the same level of talent as maybe a top 40 pick, right? That was kind of a conclusion that was drawn by a couple analysts. They're saying players in the top 15, those are round one no matter what players, but everyone between maybe 15 and 45, those are all speculative. Some of those guys could be picked round one, some of those guys will be picked early round two. It really just depends on who's there and what team needs what player, right? And so with that being said, I wouldn't mind if the Commanders traded back. Maybe they get like a 16 and 43, right, from the Jets, or maybe they get a maybe like the Chiefs 9 and something else. I don't think that's as likely, but it is definitely possible that some team may want to trade up a couple spots and give up a second round pick because they know they need to trade up for that player, and that is. It really just all depends on need, right? If there's a lot of players that fall to pick 7 and the Commanders want to hear some trade calls out, they definitely can. They definitely could get a solid package. I was even working with a package yesterday. I was in the gym. I was super curious. I was like thinking about what are some potential packages that Commanders could use to maybe even land like a Brian Thomas Jr. in a trade, right? And I was working around with it on the Pro Football Sports Network page. You know what? I'll bring it up. Just for this, I'll bring it up. I'll try to remember what the exact thing is for this, but I'll bring it up right now. Okay, so we're right here on the Pro Football Sports Network. I'll do fast. I'll do the consensus big board, and we're obviously the Washington Commanders, and we're going to sit here. Oh, that's cool. They updated it, so now they have all the team needs right there. That was not there earlier. Obviously, they had it up here, low priority. That was not there either. That's cool. They updated this. Oh, yeah. That's besides the point. So I was, going through some trades, not trading with the Eagles. That's like the trade ideally I would want. 9 and 40. I think it's a very solid trade, right? Some other ones. That's besides the point. Let's go to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's say the Commanders wanted to trade their first overall pick this year, number 7. They trade their third round pick this year, number 71, in exchange for 56, 88, as well as not Trevor Lawrence, Brian Thomas Jr. Oh, I messed it up. 7, 71, 56, 88, next year's first, and Brian Thomas Jr. I did this trade earlier in a mock. Oh my gosh, I did it again. I did this trade earlier in a mock draft, and it went through. And I don't know how. I didn't have to. I did put 81 instead of 88 at first, and it didn't go through. But when I put 88, it went through. So this is definitely a trade that, like, if this was given to me on draft day and saying we get Brian Thomas Jr., we're trading our first overall pick and our third round pick for a late second rounder, a late third rounder, next year's first, and Brian Thomas Jr. People are saying that they would absolutely despise the Washington Commanders if they traded out of the first round. I think under this, I'll propose it. It went through. Okay, so this is not that weird. I'm going to pause this real quick. That is not that weird of a trade. I think if the Commanders did this, they traded 7th overall pick and 71 for 56, 88, next year's first and Brian Thomas Jr. So that's a very weird trade. We know that the Commanders are very locked in on the players in the first round of this draft, and they're probably going to be picking a player in the first round. I don't expect them to trade completely out of the first round for Brian Thomas Jr. However, this is something that is very strange. It is very, what's the word? Intriguing, personally, because maybe they're going to go after a Carnell Tate or a top receiver there at pick 7, as well as maybe another defender here at pick 71. Now they get one of a top receivers in the NFL in Brian Thomas Jr., one of the best friends of Jaden Daniels, as well as they have a chance to pick someone at 56. They have a chance to pick someone at 88, as well as they get another first-round pick next year. I don't see how that is that bad of a trade, personally. but I'm curious to know what your thoughts are. Obviously, no one knows anything. We keep getting different reviews and analysts saying they know that the Commanders are going to choose this guy no matter what. No one has any clue, right? There's zero chance that someone knows what's going to happen tomorrow. There may be one guy who just guessed correctly. It was a coincidence, and he's going to be looked at as the greatest guesser of all time for the next year until he makes a new guess for the next year's draft and he gets it wrong, and then one of the 30 analysts gets it right again, and the cycle is just going to continue. But we are just going to have to see. The bottom line is the Commanders are going to be sitting there at pick 7. 6 guys will be chosen before them. One of them is definitely going to be Fernando Mendoza at pick 1-1. That is another conversation. I would not mind seeing a team trade up to the first overall pick with the Raiders for an absolute haul. What if the Jets did that? What if the Jets trade an absolute haul for the first overall pick to the Raiders? That'd be pretty cool. And they get Fernando Mendoza. I would not be too upset if that happened. I think that'd be very cool to see. But that's besides the point. There will be 6 players chosen before the Washington Commanders, and then at pick 7, we're going to have a selection of players to choose, and the Commanders will either choose one of them or they will trade back, and that is going to be it. And then we're going to have another selection of players to choose at whatever their next pick is, and so on. And then at the end of the weekend, we will have the 2026 NFL Draft. So that is kind of the deal I wanted to get into today. A lot of people thought they had it all figured out. A lot of people say that no matter what, the Commanders are going to choose this player. No one has any clue. It's all speculative. People are hearing whispers. People are creating rumors, and I've tried to make videos in the past of going into these different rumors and playing out a certain scenario for the Washington Commanders, but at the same time, I don't have any clue what's going to happen, and I don't know if I want to buy into that anymore, especially a day before the draft. There has been numerous rumors about the Commanders being locked in on maybe 10 different players at this point. Over the past 2 months, we've gotten different reports saying the Commanders are locked in on 10 different players, and if that player falls to them at 7, they're choosing them. And at this point, day before the draft, I'm not buying into any of it. I'm going into the draft open-minded to see what the board falls like, what happens, what trades happen. I'm curious to see what type of trades happen. I always love seeing trades in the first round, and to see what the Commanders have at their disposal with what players they can choose or what trades they can encounter. So that is going to be it for today's video. It is a little bit of a shorter video, but I just wanted to go in and talk about kind of the bottom line here for the 2026 NFL Draft, and the fact that no matter what, the Commanders are going to get a surplus of players. We're going to get a lot of talent in the 2026 NFL Draft. I have players that I am personally super excited for, and I hope the Commanders draft, and I have players that I hope the Commanders don't draft. But we just have to go and see, and then we'll go into the 2026 offseason, go into OTAs and everything like that, rookie minicamp, and hopefully by the time the season starts, we have a super valuable and talented squad to hopefully get back into the playoffs. So this is going to be it for today's video. I really appreciate you guys sticking with me to the end. It was definitely a rambling, ranting video, but sometimes I just want to come on here and share my opinion. So if you guys don't mind, please go down below, drop a like, subscribe, turn on post notifications to know when I post next, and you guys will be notified whenever I post more Commanders content just like this. Once again, I'm going to be live streaming tomorrow night, 7:30 p.m., hopefully starting with the 2026 NFL Draft Day 1 as well as Day 2 on Friday and Day 3 on Saturday. I'll try to be live for the entire duration of the 2026 NFL Draft. So thank you guys so much for watching. God bless, and hail to the Washington Commanders.